Today is a day I've been excited and somewhat nervous about for quite a while, because it's time to tell you about a new thing that I'm doing that's quite different from anything that I've ever shared on this channel. Here's the backstory. It starts in the 70s, before I was born, when my father was a chemical engineering PhD graduate student. He and a group of very smart and somewhat nerdy friends who were into gaming and fantasy readily took to Dungeons & Dragons not long after it was originally published in 1974, and they cultivated a committed and rigorous standard for their fantasy role-playing. Now fast forward just a bit, and I was exposed to some of this at a very young age. I wasn't allowed to play, but I would hear stories about past adventures relayed and perceive the whole endeavor with a level of reverence that really only kids are capable of. And I would look through my dad's D&D books and just be fascinated by the possibility and just think about how maybe I could participate someday. So fast forward a bit more to the early 90s, and I start playing with my dad and my brothers and occasionally his old graduate student friends, and I also start running a world for some of them. I still run the same campaign to this day. Here are some of the maps that I drew when I was 13 and still use to this day for the adventure. Some of the best stories I've ever encountered came from these sessions. If you aren't at all familiar with fantasy role-playing, which I'm assuming is the case for a fair portion of people following a woodworking YouTube channel, think of it like a novel, but one where the author can't control the characters and they make decisions that he or she can't anticipate, and the world around them needs to react in appropriate and realistic ways to compensate. When it's done poorly, it's pretty awful, but done correctly, it's just a fantastically entertaining and engaging experience. If I had never gotten into YouTube, that probably would be what it had just remained, just playing with my family and some close friends. But the experience of creating content started to cause me to lament all of these incredible stories just vanishing into the ether the moment they happened and only existing in the minds of the few people who played. So I'm starting a new fantasy role-playing campaign, and I'm recording everything for a podcast. It's called What Do You Do? And this is our podcast art so that you know you found it. And there are also links in the description to make it easy to find. If you have no familiarity with this, but have a level of curiosity, I think it's a good intro because we have someone playing who came into it with absolutely zero experience.
What about you, Scott? Are you pumped?
I am so scared, but yes, I'm excited.
And for what it's worth, I think this will actually help me in my woodworking and making endeavors. You're watching me build a booby-trapped puzzle box for the first adventure, and I think occasionally I will need to build interesting things for the podcast. Now, sometimes I struggle to build things that aren't super practical, and this could give me the nudge I need. So I think it'll help this channel. I'm not going to show or really talk much about the fantasy role-playing itself. To the extent that I talk about it here, it'll be only builds, kind of like I'm doing right now. So I won't say this very often, but if you want to check it out, see what it's all about, catch up on the origin story, and see how this puzzle box fits into the adventure, check that out in the description. Thanks for watching in any case, and I'll catch you next time.